Hi everyone and welcome to your tarot guidance for the week of February 14th, 2022. Now before I begin the tarot reading, I would just like to mention how things look like from an astrological perspective, because that can basically show us what the greater picture looks like and symbolically what the divine has in mind in plan in this period. So from an astrological perspective, this is supposed to be a really dynamic week where a lot of things happen. Mercury is energetic, which means a lot of urgent and very important communication, sharing information, receiving information, news traveling very quickly, urgent news, important news, and of course, being inspired to have a very grounded, rational, down-to-earth take on things. So that is also a big plus. But of course, besides that, we also have a very strong trine between Pluto and the North Node in Taurus, which means that fated material events which transform our material situations into a different state, let's say, well, those are very likely to happen at this time, and usually it's a blessing because it's a trine. So either it's a gain that transforms us, or we have basically the opportunity or resources to take care of a debt, for example, that is also very helpful, or we get resources to finish a task that has been pending for a very long time. So anything that basically transforms our material situations and our inner values as well. Now, from a collective perspective, this dynamism and this motion, action, quick resolution oriented energy plays out in perhaps not the most peaceful ways. There is a lot of action, there is a lot of preparation, a lot of news and communications, but usually about wars and potential wars, Russian invasions, then of course the evolution of the COVID situation, the economic crisis that is not just knocking at our door, it already entered our house, so to speak, so we're actually having to embrace it right now, embrace our coping skills, better said. But fortunately, as I said earlier, there is this Pluto and North Node trine, which is definitely going to be a saving grace for a lot of people out there. And even for those people who will experience this energy of this trine as perhaps a loss, well, that loss is like a lifesaver, so it will definitely lead to somewhere much better. So collectively speaking, things are actually very dynamic, very action-oriented, but in a rather conflictual way. There is a lot of conflict out there, and this is signified by the Five of Wands reversed. And what is even worse, that this conflict is not even very open yet. It is very passive-aggressive, tactical, below the surface, so to speak, and there is also a lot of, sabotage, hidden action, that which is always under the veil of secrecy. But, everyone can feel the tension, everyone can basically feel the vibes, almost the smell of war, of conflict in the air. The good side is that the Five of Wands in reverse position, as I said, doesn't really represent an open conflict. It just represents more frustration, aggravation, and exactly what I said, hidden or compromising maneuvers between those who are battling each other. So this means that likely this conflict is going to be still boiling, and a lot of news about it, some unfortunately fake news as well, will just bombard every media channel. Something really relevant is going to be happening, like a tactical move or an agreement which turns into something else, or things look quite promising in a peaceful way, and then all of a sudden there is something that turns the situation around to even more conflictual than it was before. So something of this nature can be expected. The star reverse, on the other hand, doesn't have to be something negative at all. It can actually represent something which turns out to be much better than expected, in a hopeful, in a positive, in a solution sense. The star card also symbolizes freedom, so maybe in some parts of the world, like certain restrictions or COVID rules or anything related to restrictions, are going to be lifted suddenly, unexpectedly, much quicker than maybe people anticipated. So this can be unexpected good news worldwide. And you can imagine that freedom is infectious. So one nation, one culture might influence, infect, inspire another. And this might chain basically in the world. But of course, good news or unexpected pleasant surprise can come in many ways, shapes, and forms. It can also represent like a revolutionary, scientific, or some kind of technical discovery which can offer a lot of help. It can also represent the more positive, the constructive side of karma and fated events, because sometimes the fated event is actually something being born, something being constructed, something working like a charm, or something basically taking a really, really positive turn. That can basically also represent a really significant and powerful fated event. It doesn't always have to be just doom and gloom and catastrophe. And we also have the World card, which speaks exactly about this. A very, very fated period when a lot of completions, one way or another, are going to be taking place, especially in our individual lives. But of course, that means that there is going to be a sense of progress, of moving forward collectively as well, because a lot of empowered people or a lot of individuals who have that sense of closure, they can move on, whatever karma, fated forces completed in their lives. Well, that adds to the collective energy, and it's really, really good and positive. And finally, we have the Sun card, which speaks about creativity. So maybe this week, collectively speaking, is also going to be a really unusually good week for any kind of artistic program, a new artist being born, a celebration of arts, of music, something very creative, inspirational, positive, enlightening of nature is definitely going to happen. So yes, there is a lot of fear, worry, conflict, and in a certain area things will take a worse turn. But fortunately, as we can see, there is also a lot of hope manifesting, closures, solutions coming, and a sense of new beginning for a lot of people. So that actually adds a lot of balance to the whole picture. Now, individually speaking, this Five of Wands can actually represent something quite positive, us not fighting or not using our energy, our empowerment, our focus, even our intent in investing it in all the wrong things like conflict or like, fueling, feeding differences rather than making peace or not arguing with other people. Knowing what we desire, knowing ourselves is very, very important in this sense, because we know exactly all the things that do not deserve our energy and focus, and we just don't give attention to those instinctually, so it's quite easy for us to discipline ourselves. The Five of Wands can also represent sometimes a struggle, but a very short struggle, where if you keep focused, if you keep disciplined, it can represent a quick path to victory or a triumph. And in business, for example, it's even better news, because it may represent a period when there's no real competition. So it means greater liberty to do what you would like or you would desire on the market, for example, project-wise, innovation-wise, because there is no real competition right now. Now, the star reversed is equally positive individually as well. It can represent the exact same thing, something that we hoped for, or better said, maybe something that we already are losing hope for, comes in our life. It happens, it manifests, it takes place, and it's not what we expected, but it's sometimes that much better, that much enjoyable, that much more miraculous, because many times it can exceed our expectations. And because of this Mars and Venus conjunction happening in the sky, I do imagine that for a lot of people this will be job related, for another people romance or partnership related, for others still it can be something to do with business, their projects, what was the Venus retrograde theme in their lives, so basically December up until February. It can also be like unexpected solution to get where you wanna get, business-wise, material-wise, perhaps even if you're looking to move physically your home, move your address. And you know it's a very long, complex process where many times nothing depends on you. Maybe that just falls an opportunity, a quick and easy solution falls in your lap, a connection or a new friend or something fated happens, and something that you desire but were not even that much hopeful of just takes place and it's done. It's there. You don't need to worry about it anymore. You can just take the next step, that which should have followed after this one. And with the World card individually, well, that means a lot of completions. That means a lot of endings, but endings which are the good kind. Of course, I'm not saying that for a lot of people the endings are all joyful and happy. It can be, for example, my case, losing someone, but it is still a completion, a chapter still closes, and literally speaking now, something else needs to take its place. Another door has to open. This is just the way life works, and no one is really an exception. Even if it's like an unwritten rule in life, well, that's how it happens. Something needs to disappear, it needs to close, and for something else to begin. And the more profound that door closing is, the more it goes into your roots, basically. Well, you can imagine that the life change that follows is going to be that much more radical. So a lot of us, maybe right now, are in this phase in between. We had an ending or a closure, and we're just navigating to a new beginning, maybe totally blindly, but it is still a kind of navigation, because naturally we have other senses to rely upon. And the Sun card, well, that is also really promising, especially if you have a creative job, a creative work, creative career, or are an artist of any kind, because the Sun can represent a really intense creative period. We also have a full moon in Leo that can be a massive creative boost. It can be very, very inspirational. It can also represent some people getting their spark back on, their joy, their lust for life, so to speak. Some people who have been feeling burned out, they can feel so much ignited by passion this week. So a lot of good energy is present as well. The Sun card can also represent new friendships, new social connections, even new romance, why not? It can also represent a period, perhaps just a week or maybe even more if you're lucky, that life gives you a breather. It gives you a time to just recuperate, recover yourself, and take a little bit of time out and dedicate what you can afford, of course, to your pleasures and just focusing on yourself. We all need that moment to go within and just put a little bit more fuel on our inner flame, so to speak, because that is like a self-empowerment. everything works better, quicker, more efficiently. We're more lucky, charismatic, and simply said, just more powerful when we take action from a place of self-empowerment. So instead of trying to get in our own way, we actually just support ourselves, and that helps a lot. Now for divine guidance, we have the Ace of Fire and the Five of Fire. Well, this already speaks about the fire that is the conflict, escalating, evolving, brewing, boiling in the world. And they have a saying that whatever happens around us, well, it will influence us as well. So our own inner fires are gonna be burning pretty intensely, and perhaps not in the best ways possible. This energy can also give us the tendency to be quite confrontational, conflictual, angry words, to snap, to lash out, to be not extremely friendly to other people, quite irritable. And as a divine guidance, we should rather use the energy of fire, the energy of passion, to invest it in our willpower, into our focus, into our inner drive, to have the, let's say, strength or the good fortune or the epiphany, the brainstorming result, to get out of any conflictual situation, not waste our energy and time to actually fight, just rise above it. That is one way how we can use our personal fire energy, especially the excess of that, to invest it basically into the mental sphere or the practical earthly sphere, and find a way to simply rise above any conflict, any irritable situation, to preserve a state where we simply cannot be triggered as much. And when we are not really triggered, our beings are intelligent enough to just invest that energy into creativity, passion, joy, pleasure, whatever beautiful expressions the fire energy can basically take on. So this concludes this week's Divine Guidance. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all the love and support, and for allowing me to play a small role in your journeys. If you'd like me and my channel to be part of your future, you can support my channel by donations or sponsoring. You can find the PayPal link in the description below. With this, thank you so much for listening. Wish everyone a magical and an amazing week. Until next time, bye for now.